What a pack champs it was, people, with the Kiwis winning 36-14 over Tour Samoa. Mate, what a pack champs we've been given. And to be honest, it killed it without the Australians. And congratulations to, firstly, to the Kiwis for winning. What a great performance. What a great team. There's a lot to talk about them. But I want to also acknowledge Samoa as a team and Tonga, but most importantly, their fan base. And yes, there's a lot of bands online, and we take shots at each other, but that also builds interest. I've seen a lot more interest in terms of people watching these games, and the attendances, no doubt, have just blown it out of the park. So, Pack Champs, a massive success, but more particularly today, we celebrate the Kiwis and their success, winning their second Pack Champs in the space of 3 years, and it's well deserved. But what a great series we've had, topped it off by that performance. Let's just break down quickly what I thought was key. Now, these were my comments pre-game, what the Kiwis needed to do. They needed to dominate the yardage and field position. I think they ultimately did that. I was a bit disappointed, to be honest. They started spreading the ball early, and to Samoa's credit, they defended like a house was on fire. They really got around and shut down everything. And we played with, I thought, maybe too much width, maybe forced the pass a little bit too much in terms of the offload. Tapine was just going at it like nothing. It was like hit and spin and pass it back. And then there was a few errors creeping in, but we were just going a bit sideways, I thought. But ultimately, by the end of it, the power from the bench just kind of took it to another level. The goal line defense, I thought, for the majority was good. There were moments that they was desperately shaky. You could argue Tor Samoa, the Dean Mariner try, could have been a try. If it went up as a try by Klein, maybe it gets scored as a try. Maybe there's insufficient evidence to not say it wasn't. So that might be a 50-50. But for the majority, we shut them down. The Speedmen, man, that back five of Kenny, Casey McLean, Dylan Brown. We're going to break down some of his numbers soon. But using the Speedman, I thought Kenny got on top, using him as a second to third tackle runner back in behind the ruck. He was just wreaking havoc with those Samoa middles who just could not keep up. And then Casey with his effort. Timoko, just a constant yardage man. Jermaine doing his job. It was a really good effort from all around. Dylan Brown, he owned the space. He won the medal. Best player in the Pac Champs. He's going in for a golden boot. Most likely could win it. He absolutely owned the space and dominated when he needed to. And they built off what they were doing. I thought the Kiwis just put on one of the best performances I've seen them in terms of just domination, overpower, overflowing. You just could not deal with the amount of pressure they were putting on that Samoa team. And I think Samoa got a few things wrong, but let's not quit. Let's not hide the fact that in the first half, Samoa, they defended like crazy on the goal line. It was the best goal line defense I've seen. And I'll break down some of their points because I think it's really important that I kind of picked some of these things out, and they delivered. They actually delivered until the dam kind of broke loose in the second half. But man, the Kiwis, they did what they set out to do. They had the firepower, specifically those two there in the frame, Nalfahu and Aaron in that second stint, dominated and got swung the pendulum the other way. So a lot of credit goes to them, and specifically Foz, what a way to go out. A guy that's been playing since '09, and a guy that should have really, be honest, he could have easily played for the New South Wales Blues. He could have had a career as an Australian, technically, but even though he's a Kiwi. But in his heart of hearts, being a Pākehā boy and a Kiwi boy from New Zealand, he believed that what he was doing was right. And look at the rewards you get from it. He goes out on top with his dignity, with his mana, and all those boys, man, they absolutely love him. You can tell everyone came up to him to wish him the best of luck for retirement, but to congratulate him on what a career. All of them, and that haka that they did for him was mad love and appreciation for Foz. Yeah, man, I've watched him through all those years, even the tough time, the dark times of the Kiwis. To see him come back at 23 and to play hooker and beat the Kangaroos 30-0, which is a rare feat. And now to come on and play his last gasp before retirement to give him his last mental effort to be facing these tough Toa and Tongan teams physically. Man, you got to give credit to the guy. For Samoa, though, they did build the platform a little bit, especially in the start. There was one botched try. Brian scored one. Luai botched another one. He couldn't get the clean pass out to Brian off a kick. It was like a kind of a kick for a centre. It was a tap back. The pass was horrible from Luai. If that pass hits Brian on the chest, they had enough strike to get over the line. I thought the execution in the red zone for the majority was good, but there was a few errors there as well. Limited errors and infringements. I'm going to break this down, but that first half they were doing pretty much everything they could to get right. They just lacked a few things in terms of quality. Maybe say the injury to Taulangi, which is unfortunate, Molo and a few HIAs, but I think Coach Gardner got a few things wrong as well. Luai Taulangi, they kind of did. Taulangi went a little bit missing. Again, it was up to whichever halves combo was going to seize the moment. Although it was definitely decided in the forwards, I felt maybe Luai missed a few moments, maybe Taulangi missed a few moments. And like that Dean Mariner try, like I said, could have gone one way. It could have gone the other way. Even the RTS knock on, where CHT goes over the line, if they score that, you're pretty confident that they could go and defend a lead of 24 to 6 or 8 at the time. I can't remember. But the defensive stops in key moments, they absolutely nailed it. They stopped Dylan Brown over the line. They stopped Casey McLean over the line. They got an intercept try, which I thought was awesome. That defensive effort by Toa Samoa is what they need to build off of moving into the next phase. To beat the likes of the Kiwis, to beat the likes of the Kangaroos specifically, you have to be able to defend for long periods of time. I thought they did wonderfully. They stifled the Kiwis. The Kiwis started going sideways. You could see how frustrating it was. So I commend their defense. But the dam was going to break loose, and this is my particular gripe with Gardner. He burnt the candle at both ends with Payne Haas and Joseph Polo. I think he shouldn't have done that. I think he should have gone to Tiromei early in that second and tried to keep everything tight. You saw once the Kiwis front loaded with Nofahu White, Aaron Clark, and Xavier Willison, that unit dominated. And I said as a Kiwis fan, they had to, because they were getting muscled from Payne Haas and Francis Moore. And you saw Nofahu White and Aaron Clark just turn the tide. And even with the Payne Haas and Junior Paulo and their strength, he can't hold out for that long. Should have gone to his bench earlier. I know he lost an interchange to Murray Talangi. That's unfortunate. Much love to Jazz, but Jazz isn't the answer, and I think they need to move on from that in 26. I think there's probably a little bit too much loyalty there. I think they need another good middle forward to kind of deal with that second wave of the Kiwis and other teams. They burnt the candle at both ends with specifically Payne Haas. Payne, you could probably see his engine and his tank is probably depleted after that massive final series. Had a massive performance in Auckland, but then it was nice to see him then get back to Tonga, play 40 or 50 minutes and maximize his strength. I thought maybe, give them 2 weeks break and they'll just throw 80 at it. That wasn't the strategy against the Kiwis. You had to go pound for pound, fresh for fresh player, and they should have put Tiromei in when Naufahu. They should have tried to play interchange for interchange, I thought. But there's some questions about maybe that's Gardner, a lack of knowledge, a lack of belief as a coach. Look, if you want to be a top grade coach, even at international level, New South Wales origin level, or a top coach, you got to make the changes at the right times. I think about Billy Slater making the right changes, using the right interchanges at the right times, can get you a win in Origin, can win you an Origin series. There was moments there where I thought he's got to go hit Tyrrell May, he's got to get to his bench quicker. He left it a little bit too late. Isaiah Papali'i scores. Then Aaron Clark brought that game to, I think it was tied it up or put the Kiwis in the lead. And the dam was broken by then. It was too late. So that's where some things like that, I really do question the likes of Ben Gardner and his coaching. But the numbers are there. 34 minutes to 21. That first half by Toa was just not repeatable, and they got dominated. The Kiwis powered through, and to be honest, the time of possession almost 13 more minutes. That was all in the second half, I believe. Majority. The Samoa just were defending their own line pretty much the whole second half, and then the completion rate. It was whoever could keep their errors below 10. I thought was going to go low, and the Kiwis ended up doing that. 40 or 46, that's very high. And they were throwing the ball around. They were offloading it well. You're expecting a lot more errors, but it was an open, expansive style of footy. The yardage tells you the same. The post-contact tells you the same, that they were breaking through the line. And that was Keanu Kinney. That was Casey McLean, the back five, but also the middles, Nafahu White with a barnstorming bump off of RTS. Tapine, Fish, all were getting in on the act. 9-3 line breaks, 60 tackle breaks. Again, this Kiwis team, they're able to just physically outmuscle teams, and tackles just start falling off. Then you got the 60 missed tackles, 395, almost 120 more tackles than the Kiwis had to make. That's just too much volume. Then the errors, like I said, if you can keep your errors under 10, well, Kiwis went to 6 errors. That's how tidy they kept it. That's hard to beat with the pack and the team that the Kiwis had. That's honestly, you just got to accept that as any fan of Tonga or Samoa. If the Kiwis have that much ball, if they dominate the middle of the park that physically, they're offloading at will. And, you got the likes of Kinney sniping around with the Casey McLean and Dylan Brown, who was so powerful and effective. That is a very, very hard task. Speaking of Keanu Kinney, 33 for 219. This was a massive battle, I thought. Rog ended up being quite quiet. Had to defend his line a lot more, as you can tell. And in terms of, Kinney, a little bit more passing than running over Roger, who was just purely yardage. But Kinney really won that battle. He really fought for everything that he got. And he got, he's not a real post-contact type out of yardage fullback. If he gets shut down, he almost gets driven back a lot. And that was effective by Toa Samoa. But he was relentless. Every time he got a massive hit, Jerome Luai choking him out, knocked to the head by Jerome Luai, it didn't deter him. And the fullback is a brave position. You have to put your body on the line, put your head in places where it shouldn't be, all those things. And Kinney really stood up and showed why he should be that Kiwis fullback moving forward. But Dylan Brown, what a performance from this guy. Like I said, 22 for 181 as a 5'8", running. He was just so aggressive at running the ball. And you look at his pass to run ratio. For halves, that's usually up around 6 or 7, depending on what type of half it is. He said, no, I'm going to be running the ball every second pass I get. I'm running. I'm attacking Blaze Talangi. I'm attacking that channel. I'm going at it. And he had a couple line, post contacts. His line break assists, and try assists. Look at those numbers. That's pretty high. For 3 and 3 line break assists and try assists. 10 tackle breaks and 7 offloads. It's absolutely crazy, and no wonder he won that, the medal for the Pac Champs. And again, like I said, Golden Boot. He owned the space. He absolutely did. He was the best half on the field, and he showed you why, and he owned it. And people at Newcastle, they should be excited. Kiwis fans, we should be excited, and should be expecting, if we're going to win a World Cup, that we want Dylan Brown to be the best half in the game, and to own that space, and to be and to lead this team alongside Jerome Hughes, who hopefully is healthy at that time, to be able to lead us to World Cup, because you need your best players. You can't do it unless you got your best halves, your Sean Johnsons, your Kieran Forans in their primes, the Benji Marshalls. For Kiwis, it's all dependent on your halves. We don't have that kind of stock of halves that Australia does, but the ones we do have, they're very good, and we hope that they can perform. But Dylan Brown, that's a world of confidence going into his $10 million contract or whatever it is. But I was so proud of his effort. He was so aggressive, and he had the backs to play with, didn't he? He had Casey McLean on his outside. He had Papa Lee running great lines. His offloads galore. Kenny was running on the inside. It was just so fun to watch, man. It was absolutely fun. But all around from the Kiwis, Fish and Leota, that dominance, they just so tight and aggressive in that first wave defensively. I actually think Samoa got out of that and they fought through that. And I would say Samoa should build off of that. They fought through that. But the Kiwis just, man, they really laid in the work defensively. Strong pressure through the middle. For me, the back rowers, the bookend back rowers were just massive. To have that consistency, I think that was the difference between 24 and this year. 24, we didn't really have the back rowers playing at that level. Nikora was so aggressive. Papali'i was just a man on a mission yesterday. Those two bookend back rowers are so important for this Kiwis team to being solid. So I was so happy to see them come back in the fold. Tim Moko was great in terms of yardage and all his work rate. Casey McLean is just the star. Like he's the bright rookie, isn't he? You're just seeing, if Reece Walsh is kind of the superstar of Australia, Casey McLean as a Kiwis fans like, wow, we just can't wait to see what he can do and moving forward, and we need every ounce of ability from him. You know, but I want to talk quickly about this man here. I have pretty much been very critical of this man, and it surprised me over the past few weeks how much I've heard actually compliments about Stacey, not only as a person, and I know a lot of people get along with Stacey. He's a good guy to get along with, but actually Stacey as a coach. Watching Luke Metcalf talk about Stacey, saying that he's got a great footy mind, which is the first time I heard that. Um, then the players in the Kiwis camp backing Stacey and believing him as a coach. I had a chat with someone who's close to the Kiwis camp when Madge left, and I'm saying I asked were the players actually on board with Stacey, and the playing group was. So I want to give a lot of credit to Stace. I have been critical of Stace, not thinking he's the right coach. I thought he underperformed as a coach to get the players there in 24. I'm happy for him that he got this comp, and in the fashion that he did. This wasn't a Kiwis team that fumbled their way through to a pack champs, and a lot of times Kiwis teams are harken back to Mooks' era before. Kiwis don't usually perform from game one, and then they kind of round out by the final. It was great to see a strong performance against Tor Samoa off the bat, like really, really good. And then they carried those performances right throughout, capped off by what I thought was like the most open style footy I've seen in a while. And what I mean by that, I was expecting Stace to come from Webby, where you really play to your sets and structures. And I think with more talent, obviously, on the field, there's more you can do. You don't have to be as pragmatic as say what a Webby does when your four pack is made up of, let's be honest, players that aren't of a top international level, and not discrediting my players otherwise. I love them, but they're not of those levels that was on that park for that Kiwis pack. When you have a better pack, there's more you can do with the ball. When you have better players, you can do a lot more with the ball. And it was just great to see that they were just free. The offload was on majority, and I was, I get worried because I'm still got flashbacks of my old era of watching Warriors footy. But the offload was on, the tackle breaks were on, the license from Kenny just to go and create. The license from Dylan Brown, bro. Once you get the ball, go to the line, attack, 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 and balance with a bit of structure from Foz who get it first receive and just square everything up. But I got to give credit to Stace. Like, man, I said he had to win the pack champs for me to believe in him. I'm gonna back him. I'm gonna back him through to the World Cup 26. I think he's done enough to own the space. The players believe him. The culture. When I saw Ronaldo Mulatalo there, even though he's had his ACL, banging on the recycle bin, singing the team song, everyone doing the haka for Foz. The culture is really, really good. And again, culture is everything at this level. You ain't got time on the footy field to create stuff. One of the best guys at Origin level was Mal Meninga. Does anyone really rate him as a coach? No, but he was probably a good guy at getting culture and maybe getting the right assistants to do the actual tactical stuff. Maybe it's the same as Stace, but maybe Stace has got that footy nous. And maybe if the Warriors actually had more talent, they could do more with the ball. it was just great to see a different style. And credit to also the Warriors boys. It gave us a glimpse of what they could do when they have that talent on the field. Like Aaron, could he come off the bench for the Warriors if we had a type in there like playing at lock, and he can still be impactful. RTS, we saw what he could do at fullback. That is still a genuine option over a CNK. CNK, we saw a bit of flexibility at centre. Maybe that's an option there. So it was just good to see our boys in a different environment, out of the day-to-day, week-to-week grind, to at least help us contemplate how we could use them as Wales fans, just as a side note. But Gardner, for Toa Samoa fans, I want to know what you guys think. I again think he pulled the trigger, didn't pull the trigger quick enough to get Terrell May on the field. I've heard people talk about Terrell May should start. Although I rated Francis Moore and thought his impact was great with Payne Haas, and I thought Payne was you couldn't fault the effort. Junior as well had some amazing runs, and in reality, Tor again were not far off, barring a few denied tries. They could have had a 15, 16 point lead, and who knows, the pressure's on the Kiwis then. But Gardner, is he the right coach? I think there was some rookie mistakes there, but you know, this is kind of where you guys are at. I mean, there's every chance that you could go for a Wayne Bennett. There's any chance you could go for a Mad. Like, I think Torsam War fans should think big if they think their coach isn't good enough. But then again, it's so important to build culture. If you get a Hamaso back, if you get, Tino there, you get Critter there, and that just shores up everything on the defensive side and the culture side. You got the halves there to build off of. Benai Iuelu, I thought, was just great around dummy half, and he's got another year under his belt at Roosters, and he comes back stronger. You retool your interchange unit, be a bit more dynamic and powerful. Again, love Jazz, but I think it's time to move on from the likes of a Jazz. CHT, you can continue to build around him as a utility, but there might be some things where you're thinking we need to make this a bit stronger and tighter. But let me know what you think about Gardner. I think they'll stick with him. Why change it leading into a World Cup? But is he honestly the right guy for you? We'll have to wait and see. But coming into this, we have a World Cup coming up. The Kangaroos have just gone and destroyed the English. The English, they look really bad. And I know they beat Tonga and Samoa whitewashes. But it is different with kind of English refs, slower play the ball. I watched those games over the past 2 years, and they were slow. I expect that when the English come here and the NRL rules, that Tonga and Samoa will dominate. I don't think the English are that bad, but it's a question marks around Sean Wayne. Is he the right coach? Could they get a Madge in there? Could they get someone else to tighten up? And the Kangaroos, pretty much done the job, 3-0 whitewash. They didn't play overly amazing, but they birthed, the likes of Reece Walsh in the Kangaroos jersey. The culture there is good. Everything is building to a World Cup. So now, from what we've seen, the likes of Tonga got a bit of work to do. Samoa, if they can just get a few things right, they will be fine. You got England, who will be wanting to prove something. Sean Wayne will be trying to get a result here. Kiwis look like they want to beat the Kangaroos, and I would have loved to seen that matchup. But the Kiwis' goal is to win the World Cup. Anything less than that is not success for me as a Kiwis fan. The Kangaroos will be looking to dominate, and what is the impact of that moving forward? So World Cup 2026 coming next year. Massive, and I can't wait for it because it's going to be here. The crowds are going to be massive, and hopefully we get more matches like Kiwis to Samoa next year, Kiwis v Tonga, Australia versus Samoa. Those are the things we want to see. So anyway, guys, that's my review for the game. Congratulations, Kiwis. I'm so proud as a Kiwis fan. I have been since 1997. And just lastly, I thought, again, this Toa Samoa and Tonga fans were awesome. I love the banter. I love the online. It builds just a rivalry. And it builds and asks Kiwi fans to get out and support the team. Now, this team has taken a bit of a hit since the Kidwell era, but getting a performance like that and winning like it, I thought will go a long way to helping Kiwis to build up the fan base. I don't think we'll ever reach the Tonga Samoa levels, but we can build our fan base up to where we can pack out crowds as well. It will take a lot of convincing. Most New Zealand general public don't back the Kiwis. They more follow the Warriors as a brand, but I think this does a lot of wonders for the Kiwis brand, that we'll get more people coming on, more youth jumping on the Kiwis bandwagon. And you know what? At the end of the day, I'm proud of every single player that's represented Tonga, Samoa, or New Zealand, irrespective of their heritage. Even the likes of Anafahu White, who's Tongan and Samoan, and wants to represent New Zealand, he's eligible to, and I respect him. And vice versa. I'm not going to get into that battle with, CHT and Jazz are Māori, so why were they doing that? No, man. It's all about who you want to represent. Where does your heart tell you want to be? For Nafahu and that, his heart told him he wants to be with New Zealand. And I respect that. And I respect the other boys too, like RTS, who have gone to serve Samoa and Tonga. Can't wait for World Cup. Let me know what you guys think. A lot to talk about. Samoa fans, what's the next step for you? Kiwis, can we win the World Cup? Are we the best team in international footy right now? I hope so. Stay safe, guys, and have a good one. Peace.